And we're going to begin with the whirlwind diplomatic fallout from that fiery exchange between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in the Oval Office on Friday. Now, it has provided added urgency to a summit that had already been planned to take place in London. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke to reporters after the talks wrapped up. He was the only non-European leader in attendance. This was a meeting to discuss how to best support Ukraine, and Trudeau pledged continued Canadian support for the beleaguered country. Here's what he had to say about Zelenskyy's visit to Washington.
Obviously, I spent a lot of time with Volodymyr Zelenskyy over the past years. We had a great sit-down just last week when I was, a few days ago, when I was in Kyiv to talk exactly about how much Canada stands with Ukraine unequivocally and always, and how much we stand and support him personally as a president, as a leader, as someone who has devoted himself to protecting Ukrainians and indeed protecting the principles and rules that underpin all of our democracies. I have continued to emphasize to him that Canada will always stand with Ukraine.
For more on the outcome of today's meeting, we spoke earlier with Tristen Naylor. He's the director of Oxbridge Diplomatic Academy. That's a group of veteran diplomats who focus on global issues. He's also a fellow at Georgetown Institute for the Study of Diplomacy. And here's what he had to say after listening to Trudeau's post-summit media conference.
This summit was planned before the events of Friday in the Oval Office, but the events of Friday in the Oval Office made this summit all the more important. What we saw was high-stakes diplomatic theater on Friday, and in many ways there are more than a few audiences for today's summit. One of them is the Kremlin, to communicate clearly once again that Europe and Europe's allies, Canada included, are resolutely behind Ukraine and will resolutely, steadfastly continue to support Ukraine. And the other audience, with very much the exact same message, is the White House, to communicate exactly the same, that Ukraine's allies remain in support.
Let me ask you about this meeting that's taken place in London, the summit. Do the European allies, if Canada is included, is there enough between all of these partners, this coalition of the willing, to put Ukraine back on track without the American support to beat Russia?
Simply put, even if the Europeans and Canada and other partners are able to come up with more money and more munitions and other sort of support for Ukraine, they just can't match the capabilities of the United States. And that's why it's so important for this new coalition of the willing, in many ways, to now act as a bridge between the White House and Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Kyiv and Ukraine more broadly, because American support is vital. And simply put, what's required is going to take time to get in place. They need to keep America on side and in this game as long as possible if anything's going to change, and if Ukraine's going to be in a position of strength from which to negotiate any possible ceasefire and eventual peace agreement with Russia.